Hi, my name is Gia Hamilton, and thank you for joining me for Live Your Purpose Artfully, a video series that looks at creatives and innovators who are living, working, and visiting the city of New Orleans. So I am so incredibly happy to be sitting here with my friend and colleague, Nia Weeks, who is an attorney, an activist, a mother, among all sorts of other things, but those are the things that I think people know you for. Tell me a little bit about how all those different areas or aspects of your life inform the work that you're choosing to do now, because it's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm, like the big gumbo pot.
The big gumbo
pot. And so it was in the capacity of being a lawyer, right? And advocating with community. I was a public defender for 3 years. And while I was doing that work, it was really difficult for all the pieces that are necessary for people to be able to live out their full humanity to come together. And really, really frustrating. At the same time, there are a lot of organizations, social justice organizations doing like GOTV work and trying to get people re-engaged with the civic process. However, not giving them pathways to power to change the reality of where they are, right? And so taking advantage of the fact that they will show up when activated, not giving them a space where they can really change the dynamics of the things that impart the negativity on their lives. And so I was like, you know what? Let's take this and make the gumbo, right? Yes. And so just using my knowledge of how policy activates itself, who the policymakers are, how policymakers are influenced. What is the process of becoming a policymaker? And took that, and then the ideology between like what's important to communities. So many times, like when we have work where people go knock on people's doors and say, come out and vote for this candidate, come out and support this issue. It's coming from this perspective that this is what should be important to you in your life. And because it should be important, you need to abandon the things that are important and come out and support that. Yeah, that's not fair. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work because people are like, I hear you, but my son is incarcerated right now. I've got these kids to feed. I'm actually on the brink of breaking because, it's really, one of the things that I've come to really understand is everything falls under an economic sphere. When we talk about criminal justice issues, most of the crimes people commit are related to economics. When we talk about access to quality education, that is directly related to the income. I actually also found out that we were talking about one of the issues that we advocate with is maternal health. And when we were talking about infant and maternal mortality, I found out through a colleague that it is not the lack of access to health care that is the indicator. The indicator is social political engagement. That the group that is most socially and politically engaged will have the better health outcomes because every agency under that links to healthcare is under some kind of governmental space, right? So, like all of these things, it's necessary for people to be more engaged from their perspective. So people aren't going to come out when they're thinking about, all these things. And so what would make you come out? What keeps you up at night? Those are the questions that we were asking people. What are you afraid of, right? What do you worry about when it comes to your children? If you could dream, in a day, not even giving people long-term dreams, just dream a day where you could just breathe, what would that look like, right? And using that ideology to inform how we do our work when it came to GOTV efforts, the candidates that we tell people are aligned with their issues, not just the rhetoric of this candidate is supportive, but no, this candidate sees this piece of your humanity and understands that you sometimes need to do things in order to make ends meet. Let's figure out how to find equitable
these other economies, right, that exist on top of the kind of mainstream economy that we know. You mentioned children, and I feel like I couldn't do this with you, be in conversation with you, if I did not point out the fact that I have 4 children, you have 4 children. It's one of the first things we connected around was just these kind of like modern big families.
Yes, the walking daycare.
The walking daycare. Talk about how, how does this influence you as a mother and vice versa? How does being a mother influence this work that you're doing? Like, what is that kind of like thread between the two?
It's interesting because being a mom challenges me in this work constantly. Because when there's a value set or there's a piece that I say I believe in, that I advocate for, and then I go home and I'm like, am I teaching this to my children? Or if my children came to me and said this, how do I respond to it? One of the things that we talk about a lot, I talk about a lot, is body autonomy, right? And the ability for women to make choices about their bodies, what they wear, what they do in their own right, while raising 3 daughters.
Yes.
Right? And figuring out, like, but what does that actually mean? And it challenges me as a human being. And it challenges me in the advocacy work because I often realize I'm asking people to do things that are difficult for me.
Yeah.
And so, trying to move through space and just trying to be very conscious about checking myself where I am and then being appreciative of the spaces that other people hold.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that I've been able to do this work as a mom, and watching how they pull pieces and what pieces they pull.
Yes.
My youngest one, Cameron, she's 10, and we were watching Matilda, and we were watching the musical Matilda, and the music is great.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books, and she goes, so this story's about abuse, and I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, there's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, psychological abuse, but they all find a way to pull it together and support one another because they understand each other's abuse. Is that the message we're supposed to get, Mommy? And I was like, yes, and
that's not what I was thinking.
That's not what I was thinking, but that is what she pulled from it, and she took, the historical context of the author, and she threw that in there, and she was like, but he was also like not such a great person, was he either? And so she understood that, and it wasn't anything that I directly taught her. It's what she picked up, understanding and being around people. I have said that my clients, other activists, my friends that are in the work, that's who's raising my children. And that is, they have a ton of aunties and uncles that some people wouldn't consider to be aunties and uncles. My formerly incarcerated clients, the women who have participated in sex work, women who are addicted to intravenous drugs. They all have pieces to share with them, pieces of themselves. And it's given them the opportunity to, when they see people, they see the inside of the person, aside from the way they present, aside from the way people expect them to be. They see the inside of the person first.
Their judgment is different. They're seeing humanity.
And I appreciate
that.
Yes,
the lessons.
Yes.
The lessons, it really resonates with me, this idea that, as adults, like, we come to hold certain values and be principled in a certain way, and yet our relationship with our children is one of the most intimate relationships because they get to see us behind closed doors, so to speak, when we're working on things that are meaningful, that quite frankly could fail or not go well, and they get to kind of see that entire process. And you have been working on a project, something that's really exciting, that is really innovative and really seeks to kind of change the system. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Citizen She United and She LA Inc. It is a PAC C4, C3 consortium, and the rhetoric, right? Building an aligned base of Black women in Louisiana that inform, advocate for, and enact a collective policy agenda. really what it means is Black women across spectrum. And the thing is, like, we're broadening our definition of what Blackness is, right? Our advocacy with Black Latinas is absolutely necessary. Our advocacy with Black people from the diaspora is absolutely something that we have to be inclusive about, that we don't always think about, because their experience is similar, but it is different, right? And the issues are very specific to them, and we as a community have to be in there with them. And so it's broadening the definition of Black. It is taking in a full definition of womanhood, or what does it mean to be considered a Black woman, right?
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
inclusive of our trans community, in full spectrum of our trans community. And I parse out LGBTQ community from trans community, because trans community is very specific and very their niche and their experience is very different.
Absolutely.
And so I want to highlight, I don't want to get intermingled with other spaces. And so we bring in everybody, and then we bring in women who are part of the links, and women who are, have been involved in political spheres and processes for quite some time, and formerly incarcerated women, bringing everybody under one sphere, recognizing the individuality and the similarity, and creating a base that will change the structure in order for Black women to be the power brokers when it comes to policy creation, political engagement. It's so often people look at Black women and say, well, we're the highest voting capital that there is in this state. 1 million Black registered voters in this state, 56% are women, right? And, we are the ones that will bring our children and our partners and everybody to the polls with us. We are informed. Organizing, right? We vote along issue. We work hard, even to our own detriment, to protect the civil liberties of everybody around us.
Yeah.
And as I said, even to our detriment. Even when it means that we're going to be ignored. If we're going to be pushed to the background. As long as everybody else is good, we're good too. I got really frustrated when Alabama, right? And everybody's like, oh, Black women saved us from the pedophile. Yeah, but what has happened, to support the Black woman within that space?
Absolutely.
And so she is here to bring it all together, to give power, resources, education, and not just elected office, boards and commissions, writing our own policy, getting our own policy passed. And when you talk about boards and commissions, I'm talking about your local school board, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think about when I first came back to the city, I was doing urban farming, and how few policies there were on urban farming, mm-hmm. and how the work that I was doing began to inform, mm-hmm. right, the way that we think about both the division of like property and land, but also what the policies actually are, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. No, I'm excited about it because actually, so I went to Wild Seeds.
Yeah.
My gosh, that space is heaven. And there's a lot of conversations around land trusts. Yes. And farming and and cultivation of our own food, what it need to look like cultivation of our own property. There's actually a lot of legal work going on in that sphere that I am hoping to be a part of, in the near future, because that is very real, and it's a space that we can hold in a very special way. So
absolutely
awesome work, Gia.
But I think to your point, there is something about the black female experience of like seeing a need and then just like attacking that need based on how it affects you personally.
Yep.
And I think, like you said, there's something really selfless and there's something really beautiful. And then we go to the other side of that, which is the kind of martyrdom, right? Mm-hmm. And so as you think about like your own work as a mother, right? That unpaid labor mm-hmm. that we do.
Yeah.
As you think about
unpaid by no clean rooms.
No clean rooms. Sometimes people talking back to you.
Exactly.
All the things that you're like, oh yes. Mm-hmm. And you also think about this professional work that you're doing that's definitely intertwined how do you take care of yourself? Like, what are the things that are important to you? Because I think we talk about this a lot in private conversations, but we don't always talk about it in a way that is more public and visible so that people kind of understand, like, what it means to be a Black woman who's carrying so many different communities and people.
Yeah. What's the yoga? And I was saying, because yoga changed my life because, remember, I was not going to go. I was not going to go. But I have
She's a regular now.
I am a regular now. I go every day that I can, pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Because it's something about looking myself in the mirror and challenging myself, and in my head I feel my body, and I'm like, I can't do this, and then watching myself do it.
Yes.
And watching myself, literally every day I have the opportunity to achieve a goal that I set for myself.
Yeah.
And so when I'm out in the world, I'm like, you know what, this is a tough day.
I did that
this
today.
morning. I put my leg, I got standing head to knee. I did that. It's an accomplishment and it's really an hour and a half every day that I'm in my own head, in my own space, dedicating myself to my body. And yoga, you have to think about the placement of each piece of you and the internal pieces of you. Yeah. And I don't get, like, all day today, I don't even, where am I going to eat? I'm going to eat in my car. But for that hour and a half, it was all about me. Yeah. And every piece of me.
Yes. Yeah. I love hearing that.
Yeah. It's been good. And then, like, I do, like, crazy things. Like, I'm addicted to the whole food massage.
I've heard such good things about the whole food massages.
Bruh. And let me tell you,
15, 20 minutes of...
So, that's what I do. Like, I'm going out with the grocery basket. I'm like, you got 10 minutes? I get that 10 minutes right quick, just the shoulders, and that's enough. Or doing, sometimes I'll just go get a pedicure just so I can stick in the chair while someone rubs my feet. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm unapologetic about that. So that's the other thing is I had to learn, is when I do those things, I recognize that I'm a better person, I'm a better mom, I'm a better lawyer, I'm a better advocate. I'm better for me. I feel better. I walk out of there and I'm like, whoo, got a long day, but I did something for me. Yes. And I am unapologetic. One of the things that I think is really important is, like, within with my legal work, and then in my personal space, is I'm unapologetic about what is necessary. When I get the questions with Sheila, what about the men? Okay, well, if the men organize, I am more than willing to support. I will write a check. I will come to your event, but my energy is focused on Black women and girls. Yes. And there are so many spaces that siphon our energy, that we utilize our energy, resources, wisdom, to support a very narrowly focused cause that's exclusive of us. And so I'm like, got it. So I am going to be very narrowly focused and inclusive of us only, right? And so, and I'm unapologetic about that. And so I'm like, and I have to be that way about my body. And my mental health, I'm like, because these people will drive you nuts.
It is a hard world to live in. I mean, we've made, I think, progress as humans in the larger sense. I think, I talk a lot to my dad about just like what it was like working and growing up and trying to figure out this world, as a child of the 40s and then a man of the 60s, right? And so, like, for me, mentorship has been really important. The idea of radical self-care, of, like, each day finding a joyful act, an act that, does something specific for me. Yep. But just going back to that mentorship piece, like, who do you feel is, like, a part of your lineage? Who are the people, both, maybe transitioned or here, that you feel like you anchor yourself in and are really grateful for?
My mama.
Yes. I'm so happy I had the pleasure to meet her.
Thanks, She was, her spirit, which is really, really special. Mama watched all the kids, but even before that, like, growing up, we weren't allowed to eat Thanksgiving until we went out and fed. Beforehand, we weren't allowed to get Christmas until we had we had come up with a project ourselves. I mean, it wasn't like considered charity, it's just what you do.
Yeah.
And you do it with dignity.
Yes.
And, I remember coming home frustrated with somebody being unkind to me at school. And Mom's response was, you don't know what it means for them to get up in the morning, what they have to do to walk through their day, and how they go to bed at night. And so you always give everyone the benefit of the doubt and grace and care. And even, so my mama had dementia, and even as she was losing pieces of her mind, her heart remained. Mm-hmm. And she would still walk around the nursing home praying with everybody in the nursing home. And when she passed, and I was there when she passed, and I was laying on top of her, and the nurse came in. She said, there's some people who want to say goodbye to your mama. Is that okay? And I was like, of course, mama belonged to everybody. And the line was down the hall and around the corner. Wow. To the point where people drove in just to say goodbye to mama. And she was my rock while she was here. And she has become the mountain at my back since she's been gone. There's many times I feel like I'm standing alone, or I'm really scared, and then I can feel the weight of the mountain behind me. It's like, oh wait, I'm not by myself.
Not by myself.
I got this.
Yes, that's a beautiful lineage to be a part of, and I feel like it's so important. Like you were saying, like as we think about like the things that we teach our children, like how to understand like that their work and their life and their purpose is inherently connected, to like others.
Yes.
And it's not, none of us are separate, and none of us are just doing our own thing,
Yep.
And you're right. I feel like every time you talk about your mother, there is just like this overwhelming like passion and emotion and gratitude that I see. And so I guess just kind of thinking about how much you're giving and how much output there is, what are some of the things that you need? What are some of the resources? Like if you were dreaming up things that would push your dreams and your advocacy and your work and your life forward, what are the things that you feel like you need?
So it's interesting because someone asked me I had a funder ask me, how is your work being resourced?
Yes.
Literally on the backs of Black women. I have Black women voluntarily giving pieces of themselves to make this push forward. And everyone is enjoying the pieces. Everyone's like, wow, this is so dope. Like, oh my goodness, I love this project.
Right.
Like, yeah, can I have money to pay them for the things? It's really, I mean, that is, and it's really interesting because, it is community doing the work for community. The stuff that we've always already done, just, being able to bring it together in a really specific way. But, for me, I have a dream to be able to, like, live the ideas that I'm pushing forth. Like, I believe that women should be paid for the work that they do a living wage. I would like to be able to pay them that for the work that they're doing with me. Yes. I would like to provide healthcare, not just something that we put together, but like there's an organization called Novo that has wellness care where you can get massages and nails done and those kind of, and childcare and being able for people to be able to work in their own spaces and just do the work. Just trust that the work is going to get done because it is, right? And be able to live their full lives, their full humanity, their full right. And so, like when I think about resources for this work to work, it is not just for she to be a thing. It is for the people who are a part of the she family to live out the lifestyles and values that she promotes. Yeah. And so that's like. That's what I want. Like, that's what I think about and dream about, all the time, that we're not fighting for people to survive. We are fighting for people to enjoy this life.
Yeah.
to see the beauty, to the art, to go and travel and see how other people live and how other people eat and enjoy that nourishment as well. I want everybody who touches this earth to be able to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I'm so glad that we were able to
I
talk
love you.
today.
Yes, me too. Thank you, Gia, so much.